Hello, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the Source Radio Network and to the Power Hour. We have a very special guest for you today, a wonderful vocalist. Her name is Castella. You can see that, and there she is. Hi, Castella.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And how are you?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me, Mel.
My pleasure. Castella is out in California.
Yeah.
I'm in DC, and through the magic of media, we're on the same screen. Um,
Yes.
Again, I think you're going to enjoy this. Castella is our Artist of the Week. You can go to the
Yay.
Source Radio Network. That's Source, SORC, radio.com, and look under Artist of the Week. And when you click on Castella's album cover, you'll hear one of her tracks. Um, and you'll enjoy it. And we're also going to be featuring Castella's music all week long uh,
Oh,
in the rotation on Source. So you can listen to all of her music. And you can also hit the link and go ahead and download and buy her music from the various providers. So, it always helps, to monetize an artist, especially if you're enjoying the music. And her music is really wonderful. So,
yeah.
um, I just want everybody to know that Castella is not only the featured artist, but she'll be on the Power Hour too. But she's also been featured in the UK on Morth FM radio. She's in the top 10 on Morth. And I also have just found out that she's in the top 10 new jazz and R&B on the BBC.
Oh,
So, uh, so Castella is doing well, and everyone is loving her music. So,
uh,
without any further ado, let's just find out more about Castella. So,
oh
tell me, I have a number of questions for you. The first one is,
boy.
who is Castella? Tell your fans and tell listeners something about you that kind of drives how you think about music, how you think about yourself, and how you think about your fans. What's important to know about you?
Well, what's important to know about me is that I just love all kinds of music. I'm kind of a hodgepodge of a lifetime of listening to all kinds of music, from gospel to R&B to what they call yacht rock now. Just a whole bunch of different kinds of music that I've listened to over my lifetime. And I got this wonderful opportunity to share this gift that I have. I've sang my entire life, mostly in church, and I've done banquets here and there, and I've been in a couple little groups in my lifetime, and I've just never really thought that I would, I guess maybe that I was good enough, to be on this platform. But God opened up this amazing door for me, and it's I'm kind of living a not kind of I am living a dream right now of being an artist, and hopefully just encouraging people to never give up on themselves, give up on their dreams, and if you have a gift, share it. So that's pretty much me. I'm singer songwriter. Uh, I didn't realize I had all this stuff going on, but I met someone who saw something special in me and kind of pushed me out there. So uh, that's me, really, in a nutshell. I'm just really still wild and pinching myself sometimes. What's going on in my life?
You know, it's wonderful to have natural talent because be a vocalist if you don't have talent is a problem. But
Yeah.
um, but there's something else. Um, you know, when I go back and I think about what it takes, I managed vocalists and bands for 12 years. Um, and, when I really look at the kind of work it takes, everybody thinks you just get up there and sing, you know? That's what people think, you
No.
know? But, when I look back at, the Beatles spent years in Hamburg, Germany, where they actually sang, and this is incredible. They actually sang
Hmm.
in front of audiences and inside this place in Hamburg 8 hours a day. They performed every day, 7 days a week. They put in 10,000 hours in Hamburg before they ever had a single out there. So, it wasn't like they magically just were able to sing and write music. It,
Mm-hmm.
it takes something, it takes dedication and a lot of work. And that's the hidden dimension of being a successful artist. And most people don't see it. They think the same thing of actors. Well, they just get up there and act. it, it just takes, it's rehearsing. It's always thinking about your music. Also being with the right people who can
Mm-hmm.
help your career. And it's a business, and it's not, talent is great, but talent isn't always going to get it done. You just need those hours, dedication, and the right people around you. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like you're on the right track, and you're very fortunate. Your first release was only a couple of years ago. Am I right?
Correct. Yes. It was
And,
my
and,
first release was in 2020. So yeah, that was a couple years ago now. Yeah. Yeah.
and what was that first release?
My first release was called No Ordinary Love.
No
Yeah, that was
Ordinary Love.
yes, my first radio release, and it was, a song, an original tune that I wrote. Um, and I guess a lot of people thought it was a cover of a Sade song, but it was nope. It's original, and so yeah, that was my first song that I took to radio. My first EP was called "Thinking About You," and I released that in August of 2019. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty, yeah, pretty
yeah.
pretty
You know,
wide. It's like I got on a roller coaster, and we're still kind of we're still rolling right now.
you so far you've had an amazing beginning to your career. Like I said, you put together a really good team. We'll talk about that in a little while. That's really important for other artists to understand. You know, and figuring out how to monetize a music career these days
Mhm.
isn't so easy. It used to be you find a record label, end of conversation.
Right.
And that was it. And it doesn't work that way anymore. It is a business and it requires attention, by the artist also. But let me go back to something that you
Mhm.
kind of just said. You mentioned Sade. Who were some
Mhm.
of the musical influences in your life that you really value when you think about writing music or performing?
Let's see. I would say I love Sarah Vaughan. Uh, I don't think I've ever said this before, but one of the first records that I bought that wasn't a gospel record was Renee and Angela. Um, I think one of the records on there was "You Don't Have to Cry Alone." So Angela Wimbush, I love her. Mickey Howard, Regina Bell, um, anybody gospel, Tremaine Hawkins, Vanessa Bell Armstrong, even Mahalia Jackson, and
Yeah,
Shirley
great.
Caesar. I love Daryl Coley. I love Luther Vandross, Karen Carpenter. The Carpenters, both of them. Um, yeah, it's Earth, Wind and Fire, Switch. Steely Dan, Christopher Cross. Want me to keep going? No.
It,
America.
it, it, it
All,
sounds like
yeah,
it sounds like you never met a genre you didn't like.
exactly. Exactly. I do love some country too. And I think there's a group called, I think Deadpool, I think. There's a song it's called Bodies. And it's a total rock song. It's Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Anyway, I love it. Lenny Kravitz. I mean, it's just I'm all over the place.
It
But
sounds
that's
that way. But what's interesting though is how you bring these together when you write songs and
yeah.
you produce the music too. And we'll talk about your partnerships with some key people.
Mhm.
When you're in the studio and putting this all together. But just tell me a little bit more about your childhood and when did you have your aha moment when you said I can do this?
As far as that me being able to sing, I think I
Yeah.
was probably about I did my first solo when I was probably about 7 or so, 7 or 8. And I think it might have my brothers may have had the might have had the moment because they were like, kind of teasing me a little bit. And they're like, when I started to sing, they're like, oh, she actually can sing. And so, so we had probably about 7 or so. I let my first song, and then we had a youth choir, and I would, we'd have these annual concerts, and if you were one of the singers that could sing, you would get a song during the concert. So I would always get a song, And it's just I've always been given that opportunity to sing. So probably about seven and seven or so, I was like, I guess I can sing, you know. Yeah, I was like,
Nice.
in.
And, and when you first realized you can sing, where did you first perform? Was it in church?
Yes, yes. Hmm.
Okay, good, good. Okay, so let's talk about between that childhood and 2019. What were you doing all those years?
I've always sang. So even though I worked a full-time job. I ended up as an HR director for a local government. So I was an executive. I had made it to the top of where I could be in my career. So I did that. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have three kids, or we have three kids. And they're all grown-ups. And so, I was a parent, raising children, having a career. I always sang though, of course. I would do banquets, weddings, funerals, anything. I would never ask people to pay me, but I would always be there. If they wanted someone to sing, I would go and sing. And so I always did that. And but it wasn't until I was doing a session. This is another one of those things. I have a friend named Dr. Gabriel Crenshaw, who was a writer, and he would always, you know, call upon me to help him sing as one of his backup singers. And I would always call him every now and again and say, "Hey, don't forget your gift. Don't forget your gift." And so he finally got this opportunity to go record a couple of songs in studio, and then we were so excited. I was really excited, and so I went in and I recorded with him, and that's where I met Daryl Swan. But just backing up a little bit, I've been in choirs. I've been in like really big community choirs too, where there was a big workshop where songwriters would come in and share their music, and we would sing. And I met a really cool person there who pulled me in, and I was in a group with him. And he would write songs in like 9-part harmony. Each person in the group had a part. So his name was Nathan Young, and we had a group. And so I've been in a ton of things, but I think just the reality of life is that there's so many people can sing. It's like, I mean, I know so many amazing singers, and I guess I just was like, this I'm just me, and so I just went ahead and did college and everything. But like I said, fast forward to 2000, actually 18, um is when I met Daryl Swan, who I guess I can say I can credit him with discovering me, or poking the bear, if you will. Like, have you ever done this, or have you ever done that? And of course, I'd never thought about recording an EP, or even really paying attention to the songs that I've written or anything in my head. So it's been a crazy journey, but that's kind of how I got there. Always,
You
always.
know, one of the things that you're talking about, I said this earlier. Of course, you need to have talent. There's no question about it. But the fact that you met Daryl Swan, and a lot of things that happen sometimes are vicarious. It's not planned. It just happens, and these doors open, and you have to be ready to go through those doors. And you did backup singing. You were a background singer,
Mhm.
and then you come up front and you're the lead vocalist. And that's another thing. People don't realize the challenges of moving from the back to the front.
Mhm.
When you're in the background, it's get to the chorus, don't bore us.
Also been a choir director too, so I've been in those positions
Oh,
where
good.
people learn their songs, the different parts and everything. So I've done some of everything, and
Yeah.
when I reflect on it, it's like, well, a lot of what I've done was preparing me maybe for this moment in my life. It took me a while, and I guess it just took someone to really, push me, and then I guess really believe in myself, because Daryl has produced for some amazing voices. I mean, he talks about being an engineer with the Whispers, and when
Oh,
Macy Gray
great, great group.
Stone and just a bunch of people. And he never really, talks about this stuff because he's so modest and humble and everything.
Did
And
you say did you say Macy Gray?
I did, yes. Mhm.
I've known Macy for years.
Yeah, yeah. So
You
he,
know,
yeah, he
she's
was on
she's
that. He helped with the song "I Try." I guess he was a
uh,
producer on that song. Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I love about Macy, and I can say the same thing about you. It's song selection.
Mm-hmm.
She of course she does originals, but she does covers, and when she chooses a song, she makes it her own. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's few people, and she's not recognized for that kind of talent that she has, because she can take a song and it's better than the original. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's really amazing. So anyway, so okay, so we're talking here about the fact you were a music director, you background singer, backup
Mm-hmm.
vocalist, and a lead vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me something. You know, obviously you work in the studio and you work with Daryl and you co-write and so on. What's the first important song you co-wrote with Daryl once?
Well, the only song that we've done together was interesting. Was the song Mojito, and I had actually written that the song all had written all of it. But when we were actually recording it that in the studio that particular day, there was a portion of the song that I was just gonna let the music play. And he's like, "Are you gonna put anything there?" And I was like, "No, I'm just gonna let it vibe out, and I'll come back in." And he's like, "Well, indulge me." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll indulge you." And then he just kind of then he kind of wrote the part of the song that goes lovin', 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 going, 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 bopping, 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 my head bopping. So that part of the song is what he wrote. And but it's and then also just um the he had me and a friend of mine named Charlotte Pope. She was in studio with me that day and she's an amazing singer. And he said, "You guys go and you go do some ad libbing here and you do this." And he did like this vocal collage that is kind of flowing throughout the song. And so, he didn't ask me for writing credit, but I felt like,
Yeah,
it you did so much to there was just studio magic is what I called it, to make the song just an amazing song. That the track itself was probably was the first one I kind of wrote to. The track was produced by Corey Stampley, and when I first heard the track, I was doing something else with him, and he put the song on. I think he was bouncing another song we had been working on, and he put that beat on, and I'm like, "What is that?" It was one of those beats. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm feeling this." And so I decided I had written I went through my phone. I said, I have to have some words here. I have to, because I've been really doing a lot of writing. And I went through my phone and I was swiping through, and then I stopped on some words I had written on my mother's birthday at the Cheesecake Factory. And Corey and I were in his living room, and I was like, okay, listening to the beat, and I was like, sitting in this place with a smile on my face. And it just kind of it flowed. Knowing you are in my spirit makes my world dance. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so there's a song. And so I was just, of course you had to refine things and everything, but that was how that song came together. And so it's just just pieces, of how it came together. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of cool too.
yeah, yeah. That's another thing too. A lot of songs are really emergent. They're not fully written and scripted when you get into the studio, and
Mhm.
that's where the magic happens.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was.
once you record the song,
Mhm.
to make it right for radio or for popular consumption, you need a final mix. And the
Mhm.
person that does the final mix usually is not the studio engineer that actually created the music. Typically, it's somebody else, who has just a lot of expertise in commercializing. I don't mean it in a negative way, but cleaning up the music so it airs properly when people listen to it. Whether they stream it or listen to it on radio.
Mhm.
So there's so much in the process of creating music. Again,
That's
that
Daryl.
you
I
know,
mean, Daryl does that. He does my mixing, my mastering. He records me. He knows how to, I guess, get what he needs out of me to create that soup, I guess. he kind of describes it as, you get all these pieces together, and
Yeah.
you're making this you're making this thing, and so he gets all the pieces together, and he's able to, you know do some magic with what we do. And he's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's won multiple Grammys, hasn't he?
I don't know if multiple, but I know he has one.
Well,
I mean, he
I
could.
think he's been nominated. I think he's been nominated several times.
Yeah, like I said, he hasn't told me about it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I see it, and I
Well,
was like, I was talking to him the other day. I said when I first met him, I Googled him, and then I found I said, I guess I was being really, really weird, but I found a podcast that he had been on, and he was, talking about demos, and how things have changed in the world of producing records, because everybody has high end gear, where a demo, you can't just give somebody crap anymore, because there's tools now that people can use, where you need to give people a quality product, if even if it is what you may consider a demo. And but in that conversation, he was talking about when he finds an artist, and he went through all of these questions that he would ask and everything. And I didn't really know him, and he did this interview like the year before. And so when I was listening to it, I was like, oh my god, he asked me all those questions, so he thought I was an artist. It was just he saw
oh,
me
that's
as
great.
something special, so it was really funny. But yeah, he's amazing. We just actually just were in the studio the other day. We recorded a Christmas single, my Christmas single that I just finished, and original song. And it's just he really helps me to put my ideas together, and come up with a really good song. So
Well,
hopefully this will be good.
well, I've listened to quite a bit of your music.
Mhm.
This is one. This is your record cover
Ah,
from your
yes.
newest song, and people can see this on Source Radio at sourceradio.com. And this is we have, when you click on this beautiful picture,
Mhm.
what it'll play is "So Into You."
Mhm.
And why don't you tell us about that song, and how you came to record it?
Wow, so into you is funny. I was talking to my radio promoter, and we were chatting about, the fact that every all of my songs were original, and he's like, well, maybe it'd be a good time for, Castella to do a cover of something. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go and figure something out. And so I had originally chosen a song by the Isley Brothers called "I Just Had Your Lovin' and I Can't Let Go." I think it is. Just had your
Hmm.
lovin', baby, and I can't let go. So I was going to do that, and lo and behold, I was sitting on my computer one night, and I saw that song kind of scroll across, and Lettucey had covered it a couple years ago. And so I
Yes.
said, oh goodness, I can't do that song. She just did it. And so I was grateful. I was like, thank you, Lord. He's always looking out for me. That I didn't, invest a whole lot of money into that song, and then it would have flopped, because she just did it. But I wanted a song that was kind of sexy, and kind of hip. And I really, like I said, I do love that genre of music. The 70s classic bands. And I've always just really liked that song. And so I sent it to my producer, Jeff Kennedy, and I said, so what do you think? He had never heard of the group, the Atlanta Rhythm Section, and never heard the song. And I was like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to kind of do something different? And he's like, no, you just take it from the female perspective. And and they put their thing on it. They're from Detroit, amazing musicians. And of course, once they finished the track, they sent it to me, and I was working a temporary job up in Northern California. So I had this 7-hour drive, and so I literally listened to that track the whole 7 hours, coming up with my ideas of how and what I wanted to do with the track. So it was just, it's just one of those songs that I've listened to all my life, and I just chose it. And another ironic thing about that song is when I told Jason Goroff, who is my radio promoter, that was a song I chose, he was like, "Oh my goodness, my dad promoted that song back in 1977." So
Wow.
it was kind of a cool deal for him to get the song again by just randomly by his artist, that he was promoting as well. So it was they were very excited about it. Yeah, to get it full
Well,
circle. Mhm.
I really love the way you did that song, and I was playing it for a friend of mine who was
Uh-huh.
an incredible sax player,
Hmm.
um, and and he started to listen, and about a third of it through, he said,
Uh-huh.
"Yeah, it's really good." And I said, "No, no, listen longer." And the reason is, in the middle of that song, you really open up,
Hmm.
and it sounds to me like you can scale at least two octaves. Because that's the way it sounded to me. That you have great range in your voice,
Oh,
and
thank
right in the middle of that song, it just opens up, and it's really an interesting version,
thank
of
you.
the original.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, so I always tell people, I have some of my friends. They work for different venues, and they do promotion, and they get hundreds of songs a week,
Hmm.
at their venue, and they listen to segments. When I send them a song and I want them to listen to an artist, I'll have to identify which parts of the song I really want them to listen to, because they're listening to so much music, they just kind of skim the songs. They don't really listen. And
Hmm.
that's something that artists need to know too. When you send an EPK and you send music, for a venue to bring you in, they get hundreds of those, and they're not going to spend the time. It's got to hit. And this is the other part of being a successful vocalist, or musician or artist, and being able to monetize your career. You have to understand the business and what people are looking at. So after my friend Eugene, and again, he's a tremendous sax player. He played with Regina Bell.
Oh, nice.
He toured with her. Yeah, he's really great. If you saw some of the people he's toured with, he's a side man, and now he has his own band also. But Eugene listened to the middle of your track, so into you, and he really fell in love with it. And that's a hookup I want to do. Maybe you guys do something together. He's a
Absolutely.
song, yeah, he's a songwriter, and also and a terrific musician, just terrific. So anyway, okay, so now we're talking about you in the studio. I
Hmm.
know you perform also at different venues. What do you like best? You like studio work, performing? Do you have a preference?
Well, the studio work is grueling. you know, how, I don't realize, how exhausting it is, because you're standing
Yeah.
and you're repeating over and over and over and over. And, so when you're performing, you know, that, that is, I guess, the end result. You're just you're performing with that, all that hard work you put in. I enjoy both though. I really enjoy the grind of, like, let's do this over. I think you got something better in you. And, do you think you got one more in there, or, you can do better than that, or, because, or, that was money, or that was glass. He'll tell me when I've done well. So I do like the studio work, but I have a big performance this weekend, and I am so excited to hit the stage and just connect with people in the audience. I mean, it's an amazing thing when you are on stage, and I connect with people, and I kind of look them in the eye, and I smile and I'll wave, and I don't know, it's just I love it all. I love it all. Yeah.
Well, where are you performing this weekend? Why don't you tell everybody?
Oh my goodness. I am promoting my very own first show. Castella Music presents Castella and Friends. I am hosting my show at this club called the Stand Up Comedy Club in Bellflower, California. And it's going to be a special night with me and a few of my friends. I have my live band. I have a host who is a comedian. Then I have another friend who is a poet. She's going to do some spoken word. I'll have my live music. I have a trumpet player who's going to come and play. Her name is Tatiana Tate. She plays with Jazz and Pink. And it's just going to be an amazing night. I just really wanted to I booked myself basically. I I booked myself, and I found this venue. It's interestingly, I was going to do it at another venue, but once I locked in my host, who's a comedian, I said, "Let me go and support her." She was going to be playing at the Stand Up Comedy Club, which is really close to my house. So I said, "I'm going to go and check her out." And I tell you, Mel, when I walked into the venue, I fell in love with it. I said, "Oh my
That's
God,
great.
I want to do my show here." And so, I just started, looking around, and it's just amazing how God works. I ended up talking to someone who actually was one of the owners of the place. And we started talking, and I said, I'm a singer. And he said, "Well, you look like a singer." And I'm like, "I do? Okay. But I would love to do a show here." And we started talking about things, and it turned out that, I'm gonna be their first musical act in their venue. And he said when they built the place, it's a brand new venue, state of the art. It's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful venue. It's a comedy club, but it has a nice stage and nice sound system, and we're going to turn it into, a music venue this weekend. But he said when they built it, they felt like it could be anything, and so they're really excited to have me
That's
break it
great.
in as a true music venue
That,
Saturday, October 8th.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I think I'm sure that'll be really spectacular. And choosing that's another thing. People don't realize that the venue can make the artist better when
Mhm.
they perform. Phyllis Hyman, who's one of the people you mentioned as one of the influences in your life.
Mhm.
Phyllis used to
Yeah.
play at Blues Alley down in Washington D.C., right near where I live,
Oh, wow.
and she performed there 6 times. It's a small, intimate place, and
Mhm.
she could be herself. And the shows she did there were, I think, among her best shows she did anywhere, because she's coming back to old friends, and developing that kind of venue like you're doing with a comedy club,
Mhm.
is really important. It's really important because that could be your base. That could be where people know they can come see Castella.
Yeah,
You know?
they actually mentioned that too. They're like, "This can be your residency." And I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
let's do it."
yeah.
And I'm thinking of, with that being my residency, I will change up who my friends are. And hopefully maybe bring in some people that can't get booked in other places and come in and play with me. So,
Sounds great. Uh,
yeah.
tell me something about your songwriting. We've been talking about your
Mhm.
music quite a bit, obviously. How do you write a song? Do you get just a groove in your head, or do you think about lyrics, or how does it come together when you start to think about? Is it the same process all the time? How do you do it?
No, it really isn't. It really depends. I get a lot of my good ideas in the shower. So a lot of good melodies have come to me when I'm in the shower, and so I'll run and visual here. I'll run out of the shower and I'll start singing, and I'll sing it in there. Because literally, if I don't go and get the phone and record that right away, that it's gone. It's lost, really. So I mean, so I'll get the melody sometimes, and I'll just be singing some words, and then sometimes I'll just be thinking and just write something down that really isn't melodic or anything. It's just me being a writer, um, and then sometimes I'll get a melody, and sometimes I'll get just words, and sometimes I'll get a full on song all at one time. And so it's just crazy how it happens. I mean, it's just there's no one way that a song comes to me. And another funny example of a song that I wrote is, and it's not recorded, but it's at my church. We had this time in church where we would go and hug one another, and kind of congregate before, during the service. And they would always have trouble with the song, and they're like, and they knew I was writing. They're like, "Can you write a song? Write a welcome song?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll write one." And the song hit me while I was at work in a fiduciary meeting with our people that handle the retirement funds and such for the employees. And I'm sitting there with this song in my head, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So I wrote the words down, and I'm just the whole time I'm like, they probably thought I was crazy, but I was just kind of keeping the melody in my head so I wouldn't lose it. And as soon as the meeting was over, I ran outside and I recorded it. And I sent it over to my, my friend who's a musician at my church, and he put some, put piano to it. Pastor heard it, and he's like, "Okay, cool. I want you guys to do it Sunday." So I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh," and so I would say that song is a song a hit I sang more than anything I've recorded, because we sang it every Sunday, for weeks up until the pandemic ended everything. So yeah, it was so songs just come, they come how they come. Yeah.
It's interesting too. Something about you too. You really do have an old school vibe in
Oh,
your music, and
thank
which I think is so important. To maintain those links. Because there's so much great music that came before, and it doesn't mean you have to repeat it, but it means you can't ignore it too. So, and a lot of radio today has become urban, and a lot of the genres, blues, jazz, it's hard to find on radio stations. And
you.
and you have that kind of vibe in your repertoire, of the music you do. I was talking to someone, I was talking to Sheryl Crow not long ago, and she was telling me she's one of the people, and Neil Young's another one. They are really they're really writing quite a bit about how music has changed in terms of how it's even composed.
Mhm.
That a lot of the music now is being composed by algorithm with teams of engineers. It's not even songwriter musicians anymore.
Mm.
And when they have to put the hook in, or how long should the chorus be, it's mathematically determined based upon what they broadcast on radio in an urban environment. And you know both Sheryl Crow and I mentioned also Neil Young, they're saying that music is so homogenized, it's losing a lot of its instrumentation, it's losing a lot of its excitement, its originality. And they also, both of them, have a problem with streaming music. It's digitized. And there's a number of young musicians now that are going back to analog
Mhm.
because it's a different sound, and it's softer and it's more melodious. And you can pick up the subtlety of instruments. I don't know if you've thought about any of that, but what's your feeling about the direction music's going into, and where you see yourself going with the way changes are taking place in the industry?
I interestingly enough, my first EP was a one man production. He created everything in, electronically, I would say. He's amazing, what he did. Um but my second EP was was done with live music, live instruments. And so my producer Jeff Kennedy, who's amazing, he's out of Detroit. He would take my melody, and my melody and lyric, and create something. And then after he created what he created, they would go in and they would do a live rhythm section. And it just really took things to another place, for me. And it just, there's more of a feeling to it. And I don't know if I ever want to do it differently ever again, because it's that there was someone actually playing that guitar. There was actually someone really playing the drum. There was someone playing that bass, or even that, you know, the saxophone, and so, or trumpet, so I mean, again, I think I'm more so in, in this jazz lane right now. And so, we're still doing it that way, where we're
Yeah.
still using live instrumentation. And, I think there is certainly a formula to, to things. And so I'm still trying to figure that out, but I just don't want to be put in a box personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I think that's what what Crow and Young are really opposed to, that that artists are being put in a box and they're not being allowed to be creative the way they used to be.
Hmm.
And, it's becoming too formulaic. And and you're absolutely right about what you're saying. There's no substitute for a string section, a horn section, a rhythm section. When you're in the studio and you have live musicians around you, it's a totally different vibe than
I
if it's done
can't
electronically.
wait.
Well,
I bet
well,
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
And
that's what I like. That's what I like about your music. Is because, it sounds like real music. It's a real advantage over what a lot of music that's being played out there.
oh,
So,
thank you.
um, so let me bring. I just somehow here we are. I somehow lost you for a second.
Oh.
Okay, well, tell me something else. In addition to your musical career,
Mhm.
recording and performing, where do you see yourself 10 years? Do you see yourself branching out into acting or doing something different? Or how do you see your music and your career evolving in the next 10 years?
Next 10 years.
Yeah.
You wow. I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to continue to write. I mean, I would love to branch out into other areas to where, I don't have to go get a job, a real again. I haven't worked a real job in like 3 years. And so now I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. I mean, sitting in my office for, 10 hours a day. I don't know if I'm wired that way anymore. So definitely I want to, continue to be more of the of an artist, and explore maybe doing voiceover work. You know, Shucks, if I could get into some acting and things like that. So, and definitely continuing to, write and record music. But all that takes money, and so
Yeah.
that almost I have to do something. I have to work somehow. But I just am hoping that in the next couple few years something will happen to where I'm able to really just be creative and not have to worry about the
Yeah.
so much the money side of it, where's the money coming from.
Sure.
So I
Definitely.
definitely about that, but I just want to keep doing this as long as I can, as long as I'm able to sing. I'm gonna do it.
Well, yeah, right now you said you're in the jazz groove. Do you see your music changing and branching off into other genres, or are you going to do you see yourself as a jazz artist?
I again, when I write what I write, I'm not really doing it to be anything. It's what God gives me. And so even with the first EP, when I wrote the songs, I wasn't writing them to say, "Hey, I want to be R&B, or I want to be soul, or I want to be this." It's just what was given to me. And when I sent it to Jason, he picked the song. And so smooth jazz was who picked me first. And so I really feel like there's some loyalty to that genre because they accepted me first. They really did receive me, even with my with me singing the way I do. I don't know, I'm not always smooth. I'm I actually sing. So
Yeah,
you know
you do.
yeah,
You know, you
so
know,
but I
we we have.
go ahead.
I was going to say we have a mutual friend, Lavelle Powell,
Yes.
um, and Lavelle was a songwriter and
Uh-huh.
a producer, and he has a cousin, Jimmy Powell, who's a
Mhm.
cameraman, and Jimmy was connected to Hollywood, and Lavelle got into writing scores for movies, and
Mhm.
suddenly that career has taken off for him, and he's under contract to write a number of scores for a number of movies,
It's amazing.
coming out in 2023. And there's a movie out right now where he's written this score, and it's been distributed worldwide. So I guess my reason for mentioning it is, here's your opportunity to get into Hollywood. Go go talk to Lavelle and
Oh,
Jimmy.
man. Oh,
They have
the
those.
listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me ask you another kind of a question. You talked about the influences of musicians in your life and vocalists. Who would you like to collaborate with? If you could collaborate with any one person on the planet, who would you like to collaborate with and do either an EP or a song or an album?
Any one person.
Any one person, yeah.
Only
Or
one?
what, or a group. It could be a group, but only one. Pick one.
Oh, this is hard. This is too hard. Well, it's a toss up between Jonathan Butler and Jeffrey Osborne,
Okay,
or Charlie
two
Wilson.
great choices.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
choices. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I've always loved Jonathan Butler. So let's say this: Jonathan Butler, I would love to do a gospel song with Jonathan Butler. I've always
Sure.
loved him. And Jeffrey Osborne, I think, the power in his voice. I think me and him could really do something good together. And then Charlie Wilson is just cool. So
Definitely.
yeah, so
Definitely.
I'll do something with those guys. And again, they're all old school for me. I mean,
They,
I really
they
would,
are.
and yeah, I would love to do something with them. Hmm.
They are. You know who I could see you doing something with too? Sam Smith.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah,
that
I think I. Yep. I think you do because you have just the dynamics in. It, he's very soft, and you have a lot of power. And I think and the kind of music you both do, and he does the same thing. He does smooth jazz and soul. And what?
my daughter loves him. She actually saw him in concert in London, and I actually was in London when she was at the concert. So if I got to do something with him, she would love that.
Yeah, he's yeah, but you've named some really amazing artists. So well, why don't you tell everybody about your newest EP that's out there, your newest music, and you know how it came about.
Okay, well, my latest EP, or my current EP, is I released it in January of this year, and it's called "Let Me Love You," the EP, because I released, some of the songs were released before the EP. "Let Me Love You," I released that in 20 September of 2020, and I put out in the universe when I released it that "Let Me Love You" EP is going to follow, and so I had the songs already in place that I was going to do, but someone recommended to me at the time that you should probably consider doing a Christmas single, because Christmas songs are evergreen, they come back every year. And I said, okay. So I put the EP on the back burner, and I did a little song called Sleigh Ride, which is my absolute favorite. If you haven't heard it, you got to listen to it. So anyway, I digress. Um,
That's okay.
um, it's part of the story, but then I did a song called "So Glad I Met You," and actually, I recorded "My Funny Valentine" before I
Right.
did "So Glad I Met You." So I had finished "My Funny Valentine" in early 2021, like Marchish. I guess I had finished recording that one. It's done, mastered, finished, done. And then I did "So Glad I Met You," released that one. It did really good. Did a remix of it. And then I decided to do "So Into You." And I kind of was like, well, it's been a minute. Should I still do the EP? And Daryl was like, "Yes, you should. It's a great, it's a great body of work. You definitely should." And so we put it all together. I also wrote a jingle for a friend of mine. It's called the Central Standard Time Show Groove. I wrote that for his show, and so I put that on the EP as well. And so it was just a culmination, really, of all of the work that Jeff Kennedy and I did together. And he's, again, amazing producer, arranger, and he knows who to put together to bring on a record to make it match me. And so that's my EP. I have those songs on there. And I kind of was thinking that maybe I shouldn't, because 2020 seemed like it was a long time ago. But when I think about the steps, I was working on the EP the whole time. And so yeah, that's it. It's the songs have done really well. "Let Me Love You" charted. "So Glad I Met You," it charted as well, that and the remix. And "So Into You," it's done really well. And "My Funny Valentine," the last single released from the EP, is making its waves right now. And I'm just so happy that people are digging that song, because I wasn't going to release it, but I like to go with my gut. and my gut and my spirit said, release it as a single. It needs to have its own life. And so, and it's breathing. It's doing
Yeah.
its thing.
Yeah.
So that's it. My EP is We Love You, the EP. And I just felt good to really finish it and see it. It's like, wow, you did it. You did it. You
Yeah.
have an EP, you accomplished the goal. And it's just I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the work that we did. Again, Daryl Swan was my producer on that one, and Jeff Kennedy, and we yeah, it's great. So go and get it. It's out. And again, just to give a little kudos to my team here, my Castella music team. My daughter takes all of these pictures of me, like the picture you have here. My daughter took that picture. She's taken all the pictures of all of my album covers. She knows how to capture me looking, pretty amazing.
Yeah. And their photographs are great. They really
Yeah,
are.
she knows all
Yeah.
of her mama's angles. And then my son, I have two sons, or we have two sons. He does the graphic pieces of, putting all the graphics on this picture and approving the pictures that we decide that we want to use. Sometimes, I mean, I took a selfie and I'm like, I want this to be my album cover. And he's like, no, no. And then I have another son who is my videographer who does all of my video work. And,
Wow, that's great.
yeah, the 2 videos that I have out, he shot them. His sister helps out too. She does, the pictures and different things too. She does everything. But yeah, that's my little team. My kids, they help me out a lot. So
That's really great. It's good. It's nice to hear that you got your family involved in your music also.
yeah.
One of the things which I know that you've been kind of modest about. You've been already named newcomer of the year, artist of the year, and
Mhm.
you had a lot of accolades. Your music is played in Canada and the UK, all over Europe.
Yeah.
Um, and, yeah, and now that we've been playing some of your music on Source, I've been looking at the breakdown of number of the people that have been listening to your music. They're coming out of a lot in Japan. You have a lot of Japanese fans.
Oh wow.
Yeah, who are plugging into your music. So
Wow.
you're really achieving global status. Because you're getting groups of people from different countries who are really learning about you and your music. So
Wow.
it's really wonderful.
Wow.
What?
It's
So
wonderful.
I know how that feels. Why don't you tell us also the name Castella? Where did that come from?
Oh, I just love that. Oh my goodness. So Castella. So my name is Kathy. My name is Kathy Rebecca. And so I'm named after my grandmothers, Kathleen and Rebecca. And so I would go back to Alabama every summer to visit my grandmother, Kathleen, and they would call her Miss Castella. And so she didn't go by Kathleen or Kathy or anything. It was Miss Castella. People would come by and want to see Miss Castella, Miss Castella, Miss Castella. And so, when I was looking at, and again, I'm named after her. And so when I was thinking about a stage name, because at the time I was still working as as a HR director for local government, we would have our city council meetings. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I'm thinking, well, maybe I don't want people to know my name, or because they can just come to the city council meeting and I don't know. But anyway, I had a few names once I decided I was going to do this thing. It's like, so should I just use my name, Kathy Thompson, or should I be? And these are all stage names I gave to my friend at the time to give me some feedback. I'm like, should I be Kathy Thompson, or should I be just Kathy as a stage name, or Kathy? And then I said, or Castella. And he's like, yes, Castella, you know. And it's really, I pay homage or honor to my grandmother whenever I, get up
Right.
and sing. The ancestors are proud, and I hope I'm making the ancestors proud. And my grandmother, my family loves it. That my grandmother's nickname Castella is getting out there. Miss Castella, and growing up, and of course, way before I had even thought about singing or anything, my aunt Lily Mae, my auntie Lily Mae, would always say, "You know what? You remind me so much of Miss Castella. You are just like Miss Castella." She would always tell me I was a lot like my grandmother, and in the way that I love my children and my family, my husband, and just everything, that I embodied Miss Castella. And so I'm honored that my oldest aunt would say that I remind her of her mother. And so that's how Castella came about. It was like, I'm paying homage and honor to all of my family when I use this name that of someone that we all adored so much. Our grandmother, our mother is what we called her, a Miss Castella. So that's
Well,
that's
well, and on top of the fact that it's an homage to your grandmother, and that's which is always nice to do. It does have a better ring than Kathy.
it does. It really does. And the irony is that she couldn't sing, but Rebecca was the singer. My grandmother Rebecca was the singer.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
So it's in the family too. So,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
look, I just put up a slide that I have to apologize for. I don't know what happened. I should have checked this. My
Hmm.
fault. It's
Hmm.
micro. It's much too small.
Okay.
So, can you tell people, can you tell them what, how to contact you, and, how to reach you on Facebook, and you just take us
So,
through it?
yes. Well, my website is castellamusic.com. And honestly, if you go to my website, you can find all those links. But on Instagram, I'm Castella Music. On Twitter, Castella Music. On YouTube, Castella Music. And on Facebook, for my I guess my artist page, it's Miss Castella Music. So
Terrific.
search Castella Music. Even if you go on Google, if you type in Castella, you're going to get a cake. But if you type in music after that, Castella, you
I did that. I got the cake.
got the cake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the cake. Yeah.
Hmm. Good too. You should
So,
try it.
so, so it's Castella Music on almost every social
Yeah.
media channel, and
Hmm.
it's Miss Castella on Facebook.
Yeah, and also
So,
Castella. On my personal is Castella or Miss Castella Music on Facebook.
and people can come to Source Radio and listen to Castella and download her music, and start to add it to your collection. So, um, look, I think you're an amazing artist. I think you're just, and what's interesting, the reason I really wanted to have you on the show, separate from the fact that I think you have major talent, or I wouldn't even have you here. But the other thing is, you've only been going at this for 2 years, and you're so successful already.
Oh,
And I think you have a amazing career ahead of you, and I think people are going to hear big things from you. And
oh,
I'm glad. I so appreciate you taking the time to be on the Power Hour on Source Network, and I hope to have you back again.
I'm so glad I met you.
we met
That's
through we
another
met
one of my songs. Yes.
we met through two people. Lavelle Powell had mentioned you to me some time ago,
Yeah.
and and then Dr. G, my radio station comes through MFM and BBC. So I Dr. G is a good friend of mine, um, and he introduced me to you also, and he told you about me, and
Hmm.
um, and I said, Castella, that sounds familiar. And I remember Lavelle telling me about you, and I had listened to some of your music. So I'm so glad that you're here. And again, yeah, I want to have you. I want to have you back in the near future, and tell us about some of your other venues where you're playing, and your other music and what you're creating. So I hope
Oh,
you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful session at the comedy club. I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure it'll be sold out.
well, yes, say that
So
again. I have a few more tickets left, so that's the
how
other
do
party.
people? How do they get tickets to that show?
You can go to thestandupclub.com and it'll be right there. Thestandupclub.com is where you can get
And
tickets
it's located where?
in Bellflower, California.
And that's near.
That is near Long Beach. It's kind
Okay.
of a Long Beach, the Long Beach, Lakewood, Bellflower, it's kind of more it's about 20 miles away from Los Angeles. but it's not far. And then,
Great.
there's ample parking, and it's just a groovy venue. I mean, if you come, you're gonna walk in and be like, wow, this is really cool. And then, after you get done seeing me, you can come back and see some comedy,
Sure.
another day, and it's just I'm really excited about it. And just kind of a weird little thing. I don't know if you notice, I have my earrings. I have the dragonfly is my spirit bug, and all week, just a random dragonfly has been flying in front of me, and I always just, I'm like, well, what's about to happen in my life? Because these dragonflies. I saw a really pretty one yesterday. He was blue, looked like this one, and I was like, wow. Every now and again, just want to come and say hi to me, and I'm like, oh, hi, little dragonfly.
Well, that's probably a good omen.
It is.
Everyone should come out and make sure you catch Castella this weekend.
Please
And
do.
yep, and I'm sure it's going to be a great night. And again, thank you so much for coming on Source Power Hour, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And hey, you can get your private jet and come on out to the show.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go rev it up right now. Okay. Well, you take care of yourself, Castella. We'll see you
All
soon.
right. Thank you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.